Welcome to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and today we're going to be talking about the Faithful Servant Award. And joining me to discuss this award to our local law enforcement is the founder, Bishop Kofi Adonting Boateng. He is with me today to discuss the upcoming award ceremony. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for welcoming me here.
So you are a bishop with the Divine Word International Ministries.
Yes.
And you are also an ordained police chaplain. And I
Yes.
think you're the first police chaplain I think I've ever met. So right away, that makes you very special.
Thank you.
So I would like to introduce our audience to you a little bit by talking about your journey here from Ghana, and kind of how you came to recognize the fact that our communities would benefit a great deal from recognizing the people on our police force.
All right, thank you very much for hosting me here this afternoon. It's nice to meet you once again.
To you too.
My name is Bishop Kofi Adonting Boateng of Divine Word International Ministries. We've been in ministry for over 10 years in America here. We've done a lot of great work with several ministers that are supporting us. A couple of years ago, we invited a couple of police officers to our church, to just come and give a safety talk as to how to interact with police officers when any of the members are stopped. When they came from the Franconia Police Department, when you're outside of the police department, there's a feeling that the police are not part of us. They don't belong to us, they are enemies. But when they came, the relationship that they demonstrated there, especially an officer from the Franconia Police Department called Officer Eggers, the human relations, the bonding and the way they assimilated themselves into the church. Now we began to see the police in a different light. They came once, they came twice. So based on the sacrifices when they came there, they offered, I began to pay more attention as to the police services, realizing that it is not easy to be a police officer in America here, knowing that every day when they don their uniform to step out, there's a possibility of anything happening to them. But they are humans also, leaving their children at home and leaving their families in the middle of the night to respond to 911 calls. America is a free society. It's a democratic society. So the work the police do here, they are not properly recognized for saving lives, for saving school children, for protecting church, especially in the Virginia area where I live. So based on that, I got a thought that it's necessary that we bring the community together to recognize and to commend these great officers for the daily work they do to bring us the peace we enjoy living in Virginia. That is how we came together to start the Faithful Servant Award of America.
Well, I think you bring a very different perspective. Again, you came from Ghana in 2001, and the fact that you reached out to the police because you had concern for your own community, and making sure that the interactions with the police would not be dangerous, right?
Yes.
And so the media constantly feeds us 24/7 this idea that with the police things can go wrong. But they don't bring us stories about the fact that we all rely on dialing 911 and having someone show up. That's not the story we hear every day. The stories that tend to be on social media and in the news is only highlighting when something has gone wrong.
It is generally human perspective that anything that is sensational is followed. The work of the media is also to make sure they maximize following as much as possible. But in spite of that, there are pregnant women that have been saved, the children and the mothers have been saved because a police officer showed up. Recently, I was driving, a guy was having a heart attack while he was driving. And if a police officer had not showed up within seconds, he would have died. When the police officer showed up, he resuscitated him by doing CPR several times before that saved life. So if this men and women who put their lives in danger to save others in the line of fire. In case there's a fire in the house, they will show up. In case there's a live gunshot here, they will run through it to save life. We feel that it is necessary that the work they do, the community will come together and recognize them. We don't have to be criminals to fear the police, but the fact that we live in the community and the setup of the police system is to save everybody, strangers and people they know and they might never know. It is necessary that the society will come together and recognize the work they do, because without them, there will be several chaos everywhere in our cities. Look, cities where police services are not effective, see how many troubles, people are dying, lives, accidents everywhere, because the police system is not good. Virginia, Fairfax, Prince William, Arlington, and all these areas, the work the police are doing here, they need to be commended, and we have to recognize them for the great work they do.
They have. They've instituted programs like Diversion First. They've trained their officers to de-escalation. They've trained their officers in bias training, because we all have biases. I think you're right. Law enforcement here has been very progressive and very forward-thinking in saying if we've identified a problem, then we need to address that problem. But again, we're kind of forgetting, as you pointed out, that the police force is made up of individuals who've chosen this as a career. And unlike most of us, our careers do not put us in danger every single day. So I think it's important. I think what you're trying to do is very important. Let's talk about events like National Night Out. I know also that Communities of Trust, Shirley Jenwright, is also tried to foster a bridge between local communities and law enforcement so that people in a community know who these officers are. You invited them into your church. And you discover that these are very nice people who take their job
very, very nice.
So, do you feel sort of as if we made, or individual communities, and I don't just mean neighborhoods, your church did it. There are other organizations, social organizations, that could say, let's bring the police in to what we're doing?
It's all perception. In some of the communities, the perception is that the police are perceived as enemies, just like, as you said, because of sometimes some of the things the media says about all the excesses of some of the police officers. But otherwise, if all the communities will bring the police together in their fold, they are very warm, they are very human, they are very nice. I remember the second time they came to our church, we were playing African music, a Ghanaian song, and they didn't sit down and observe us as strange people. They got involved dancing with us, dancing with children, just to make people feel that, after all, these are humans, but the society must be controlled, governed, ruled for everybody to be at peace. But otherwise, the fact that they tag guns on their sides doesn't mean that they are out there looking for somebody to take out.
Yeah, and I mean, I can recall that Delegate Gian Ward passed legislation 3 years ago, maybe, to teach in driver's education in our schools how to interact with a police officer. Now, the fact that we had to have legislation, the fact that there were actually people who voted against that legislation, kind of shocking to me. But the fact of the matter is, even she recognized that we need to teach young people driving a car the appropriate way to interact with an officer. And when it gets down to it, that's really what this is about, is expectations, what we expect from them and what they expect from us. But how many people really understand the appropriate way to deal in a situation that could potentially have misunderstandings about intentions?
We take it this one at a time. We might not be able to change all minds or all perspective, but as we draw the community together closer and closer, people are paying attention. Social media is drawing us into a very small, very single village where people hear things and people say things more than before. This time you don't need a television to get the news, but if you have a phone in your hands, there's a possibility of you getting the news. So we're trying that sometime to come, this particular Faithful Servant Award thing we're doing, it will be in states like Chicago, Atlanta, and all areas where there's a lot of distrust among even children, young children that the police are not their enemies, but they are partners. And this must be bridged together so that we can all enjoy a harmonious society where everybody is at peace. The work of a police officer is to bring peace.
That's true. They're peace officers,
Yes,
right?
yes. And so we want that highlight. And apart from that, if what we're doing now, we also believe that if there are any excesses in police system, as others hear that others are being awarded for being honest, for being straightforward, for being truthful to their training, because the whole system in America here, the police system, they all have policies and principles that if every officer will follow, there will not be excesses like we hear about. So that when we are recognizing them in their communities as to what we're doing, we hope that it will change also the minds of all the wrong ones that are among them that are bringing bad names to the others. And besides that also, so that ordinary people in the community will also wake up and realize that when the police is in their neighborhood, they are there to protect them. They are there to save life. They are there so that criminals will not find it easy to live among them, for them to have peace. Thank you.
So yeah, I can honestly say I have lived in Fairfax City for 20 years. Mm-hmm. And if you ask me the name of any police officer at all, I would not be able to tell you a single one, which right there tells you something about the fact that I expect when I call 911 that one of those wonderful Fairfax City police officers will be right there when I need them, and yet I myself couldn't tell you who they are. And I think right there you have highlighted the fact that even though I belong to many organizations and many communities, we have not asked the police to come in and introduce themselves to us, and we have not invited them in to make them partners in the work that we're doing. I sit on the board of various nonprofits. You know, I live in a neighborhood, and you have really highlighted the fact that it's incumbent on us as citizens to reach out beyond the National Night Out. And National Night Out, as you and I both know, is like the one time of the year where the neighbors go to a public park and the police come and introduce themselves and, you know, help children understand that they're there to be helpers, as Mr. Rogers said. Mr. Rogers said, always look for a helper, because a helper will always be there. So when we come back from our break, let's talk a little bit more about how we can engage the local police in a different way. Join us after the break.
Maria, so how's work?
It was fourth period biology. Our students just weren't getting how easily viruses spread. So Miss Bell and I had them role play a zombie virus outbreak. By the time they had all learned the lesson, all the living were dead. Hey, how's your job going?
That big sales meeting I planned? Next year, I might get to go.
Cool.
Let me tell you about the toughest guy on earth. He does the work of 2 jobs, but only gets paid for one. He's tough enough to feed the man that gave him a lifetime of nourishment. He has the crazy strength to lift the man that raised him up without even flinching. That's right. No employee of the month bonus check here. This guy, no. This warrior will always be by his father's side, even if his dad will hardly remember. Good luck finding a gym to train for that. If this guy isn't the toughest guy on the planet, then I don't know who is. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to Your Need to Know. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and today we're talking about the Faithful Servant Award. This award was created by Bishop Kofi Adonting Boateng, who is with the Divine Word International Ministries. Thank you so much for being here to talk to me about this award.
Catherine, thank you too.
So you were talking about the fact that this award, which started, you became a chaplain. You're a police chaplain, the first one I've ever met. In this, you were inspired to recognize the efforts of police officers, but you've also gone international too.
Yes. This year, around January, I was in Africa, Ghana, where the police service is not like America here. And we're praying that in the future to come, it will be improved. But over time, there have been so many advances. So we heard about the great work the police service are doing in Ghana. So I contacted the police department in Africa, Ghana, and I went there to award the Chief Inspector General of Police, the National Police Head. We awarded them that the greatest things we do when people are not watching is what inspires so many lives. So we went there to issue him an award and citation from Faithful Servant Award America, and they were very blessed. From there, we've heard that things have really improved and they are doing well, because you might never know who is watching, you know, and that's what we're praying for. We're also working that very soon we'll be in the United Kingdom to bring the community together, also to appreciate and recognize the sacrifices that the men and women in uniform are doing in their community, especially women. Catherine, for a woman to don a police uniform and go out there in their vehicles every day, it's heroism that needs to be commended, because they leave their children, they leave their husbands, be out there in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., when 911 is called. They go to houses of people they don't know, so strangers. Like you've lived in your community for so many years. They don't know you, but if you call them,
They come.
they will come and offer you help, sometimes even at the peril of their own lives. So we're trying that, apart from the fact that we're in Virginia, sooner than later, we're working with other police agencies to reach out to like states like Atlanta, like Chicago, and places where there's a lot of distrust and misunderstanding of the service of the police services.
Well, you bring up something very important too, and that's about women who are police officers, because that's been fairly recent. For a long time, that was not a career that women were considered for. In fact, they were kept out by a lot of rules and regulations. And now we have a sheriff, Stacey Kincaid, who is the first woman sheriff.
She's wonderful.
She is, and when she was elected, she was the first woman in 273 years
Wow.
to be elected sheriff, and she's done an amazing job as a leader in law enforcement. And I'm glad you bring up the fact that women are out there doing this work too, and that the community needs to appreciate the fact they've chosen this career to serve their community in good faith. And again, every community, I don't care if it's the religious community, the education community, the corporate community, there are bad actors, but bad actors do not represent all of it doesn't represent religion, it doesn't represent education, it doesn't represent business. There are bad actors. But the vast majority of people every day put their best self forward to deliver the thing they promised to deliver. And I think you're right in that with this award, what you're hoping to do is help people understand that the millions of stories we don't hear about every day are the ones we should be focused on, and not necessarily seeing things that go wrong or poor judgment be reflective of the careers of so many police in every community.
Catherine, this is the sad part of the life we're living now, where humanity amplifies the mistakes of few, and they try to brand everybody with the mistakes of few as bad people, wrong people. I feel that we live in a world where everybody must be given an opportunity to prove themselves bad or wrong. The generality of the system is that the police service is meant to also fulfill the democratic system of America, where the system is governed by rules and regulations or laws, so that if laws are passed and there are no effective, honest, genuine, honored police officers to enforce the law, then we're going to live in chaos. And therefore, it is necessary that every little effort that they do, especially talking about the sheriff, that is the female. She's a mother. I've been following her, watching her quietly. Everywhere she goes, no matter how hard the situation is, she wears the badge, but she wears the badge with a smile. And that smile, sometimes you'll be surprised when people are hurting, when there is domestic violence and people like this show up. They're crying, they get hugs and balm from them, and they have peace. That peace they enjoy. Let us overlook the wrongs and the mistakes of few to celebrate the good people are doing. It is generally said that priesthood was supposed to be holy, pure. But today, there are priests that are murderers. Does it mean all of us are killers? No. There are priests that are terrible. Does it mean all of us are terrible? No. But let's begin to navigate to see the good out of even the bad, so they can be celebrated. It will give us all peace to enjoy life without any prejudice, without any hatred or any animosity among us, so that we can all enjoy the general lives we live. One thing, recently an officer said I enjoyed, he said, nobody's guaranteed tomorrow. You have today, I have today. What we're doing now is I'm celebrating you, you're celebrating me. We might meet again or might not meet again, but the opportunity that we've gotten to have here, let's celebrate as if there's no tomorrow. So that if tomorrow is not guaranteed for myself or you, that you have done your best. And that is what I wish we could do with this Faithful Servant Award we're celebrating.
Well, I think there's an old saying that behavior that is rewarded is repeated. By choosing to highlight the many ways in which police every day do the things that the rest of us don't see. For instance, you mentioned drunk drivers. Mm-hmm. You know, if the police didn't pull people over, how safe would how safe would our roads be? Yeah. Distracted driving, mm-hmm. people who don't wear their seatbelts. That may sound really small to people, but police pulling you over, and none of us like to be pulled over when we're going too fast, or when we've got a headlight or a tail light out. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it from the perspective that those people are doing a job that is meant to protect all of us.
That's true.
It's just a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And just like I don't get up every day and think about oxygen and the sun coming up, I don't get up every day and think, are there police ready to protect me? I've taken it for granted my whole life. My whole life I have grown up in this country and assumed if there's an emergency or I needed help, all I had to do was make a phone call. Or if there was an accident, someone would show up to help me. I think your perspective, coming from an entirely different country where the experience of police is entirely different from what you've encountered here, has made you more appreciative than those of us who've lived here all our lives.
But the story must be told and people must begin to hear us that we not just even the police, but the first responders, every first responder, the fire people, the
emergency medical technicians, the EMTs.
And the only reason why I'm so celebrating the police now is that it is the job they do is risky. If I've seen young children who lose their fathers and their mothers because they went out there and stopped somebody on the street and they were just shot. They stop a driver without ever imagining that would be the last time and they're killed. So while they are alive, can we just celebrate them? Can we just acknowledge them? There's no duty more honorable, there's no duty more urgent than that of returning thanks to an officer and tell them, yo, we thank you and we appreciate you for doing what you do. Catherine, if we can do this every day to everybody who comes our life to help us, life will be very peaceful and everybody will like to do even more because they know somebody's watching and people, the community they serve, we're celebrating them for doing what they do.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think you've made a great point about you have to go beyond the uniform to understand that there's a person in that uniform, and that person wants to have a relationship with the community, but the community has to be proactive in inviting them in. They're not going to come knocking on our door saying, let me in. That would not be cool. We need, as a community, the organizations that we belong to, we need to invite law enforcement in so that we can have a relationship with them. So this award ceremony you're having on October 26th, it's at the Hilton Mark Hotel in Alexandria. And people can find that information about the award ceremony, which is open to the public, on fsofUSA.org for more information. So tell me a little, this is your second annual, so tell me a little bit about the people that you're honoring.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge that when we started, there's an officer at the Fairfax, the captain at the Franconia Police Department, Officer Captain Michael Greenan. When I shared the idea with him, he received it joyfully and contacted the State Police Department. That also brought in First Lieutenant General Perkins. He was with the Sheriff Department. They all came together, and also First Sergeant Kenneth Blank from the Virginia State Police. And this man, for the help they gave us, because we could have been rejected and told that no, forget about it. But they happily got involved, and they really helped us. The first one was so successful. As a matter of fact, they thought it was going to be a very small ceremony, but when they came to the event center and realized the setup, every officer that received an award was so happy, because the community we were all there, over 300 people, just to celebrate and to tell them thank you. So those who received the first award were very blessed, and we believe that this second one also, which is now broadened, because the first one, it was basically only Fairfax, but this time we have Prince William, we have Alexandria, we have Fairfax also, we have other communities also that are, counties also that have just joined in. And as I'm talking to you now, we have Officer Greenan is working with a different department now. So this year we're not going to have him. But we have Captain Fred Gregory, that is the captain for the Franconia Police Department now. Such an awesome, great police officer who loves the community so bad.
Yeah.
And we still have Officer Jamel Perkins from the Sheriff Department. He's working hard. We have First Sergeant Kenneth Blank from the State Police. He's also doing very well. We have Sergeant Sean Karen from the Arlington Police Department. Lieutenant Chris Mura from the Prince William. This man is awesome, great person. And your own Shelley Ginswright. She's also coordinating and supporting us. Everybody is excited for this particular October 26th event that is coming on.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Bishop. And this at home is what you need to know.